But, you know, listen. First of all, let me just say good afternoon, listeners and viewers, wherever you are in the world, anywhere. This is welcome again to another episode of Sunday Scoops. And, of course, we try to bring you every Sunday. And we've been doing that for almost the last 2 years, where we bring you 2 hours of the best recorded reporting, streaming reporting on Jamaican music, the historical perspective. We look at existing past artists, etc. And today is going to be no different. Today we want to take the time to look at the career of King Yellowman.
Despite his success.
Yeah, I mean, you know, let us give the listeners a little taste of, you know, Yellowman in terms musically, and then we're gonna do a little step back. Yeah, we're gonna look at his life story.
The song I'm going to play, Rich, is Michael Barney, which was his counteraction to Lone Ranger.
Lone Rangers, yes.
Barnabas Collins. You know what I realized with that song, Richie?
Let me see if
a very, very smart man.
Let me see if you pick up what me pick up. Go on.
Counteraction, and the man said, yo, him and Barney a fight tonight. Him now make bite Sister Joyce.
Well,
the lyrical construction show that the man is a lot more intelligent, despite the fact that his early life was spent in the system, different homes, and him saying, I never remember which class him did. I know him good at maths and him get some high marks, but that is a part of his life that he has subconsciously suppressed.
Well, let me tell you what I picked up out of the song. And again, you know, it just leads into how Yellowman developed his career, his proficiency as a DJ per se. He borrowed a couple of songs here. One him riding on Lone Rangers, Barnabas Collins. But he also borrowed something out of this song, 51 Star Me Never Born. In fact, if you listen to the bass rhythm, that's where it's coming from. And him say, Sister Linda, she jumped through the window. That is a extract from 51 Storm, which again, 70s music. But it also tells you too that, you know, Yellowman, without question, lyricist. But let's step back. Yellowman was born Winston Foster at 54 Chisholm Avenue, as he said, in Kingston 10. People think Chisholm Avenue is Kingston 11, was Kingston 10, closer to Harford. And him say, I'm not too sure the year, well, you know, by addition and whatever.
I don't think you know nobody here.
Yeah, him say, it was 1959 is what his birth is listed, but the exact date of his birth, you know, a little fuzzy. Because his mother left him in a Grace strong text. That's the term I used to work at Grace Kennedy during those years.
Oh, that was
what we call a strong text shopping bag. You know. Yeah, it's a paper bag with a nice Grace, the Good Food People logo on it. And luckily she left the bag on the sidewalk. And apparently somebody passing and see this bag and, you know, looking at it, and see that there was a child in it, and took the bag with him down to Maxfield Park Children's Home, which is where he spent his formative years. Now, you know, what could possess a mother, a parent, to do that to their child is beyond my ability to comprehend. But it just tells you that wickedness about from long time.
Richie, you know, you just don't know what or where life pushes you, how you're going to respond.
Exactly, because, you know, this basically opened the door to, you know, here's a child growing up. He has no connection. He talked about, you know, in the days while he was at Maxfield Park, parents, you know, adults would come there to adopt children. Nobody look in his direction. They eventually send him to school. Nobody want to sit down beside him. In those days, school is you have a desk and bench contraption that seats 3 people, 1 in the middle, 2 on either side, and nobody don't want to sit down with him, you know. And so him say from birth, this is the kind of scorned treatment. Ostracism is a nice fancy word, but them scorn him, and so, you know, he was always sick. Him say what happened is, if it's lunchtime and I'm going to the canteen or go for wherever lunch is either I'm go first or I'm go last, because nobody no want have him in the line with them because the thinking is that whatever him have that make him look like that is contagious, you know, and so this is a kind of, to use your word, ostracism. But
yeah, and also just to shed some light on the subject for those of you who don't know, and I think that most of our listeners should know. Winston Foster is an albino. In Jamaica, the derogatory term is dundus.
Dundus.
And that is basically what you're called. And if you grow up in a society where no one gives you any recognition, that's exactly how he feels. And he feels it was racism because people treated him like he was a plague.
And throughout, especially those early days of his career, I think. No, but you know, we're gonna allow the music to talk, to do most of the talking. Yellowman's first big hit would have been a song called Soldier Take Over.
Where with the Guinness?
Where the Guinness is right. You know, you're listening to the lyrics, these Yellowman lyrics coming out, because we're talking about 1982 to. Well, it started in 1979. The song we played there, first song he played, Soldier Take Over.
Yes.
Now, this was his first recording. It was his first recording. He said what happened is, in the early days, because he boxed about, if to use a Jamaican term, box about mean that you're from one side of the world to the next.
Nomad.
Yeah, you know, so at a certain age, he had to leave Maxfield Park Children's Home because he aged out, and they sent him to another facility in St. Mary. Again, and everywhere he suffered all kind of physical and emotional abuse. And then he ended up at Eventide Home. Now, Eventide Home is the place where, you know, just marginally above what you would call the Jamaican term arms house. Right. And so he lived there, he lived at Eventide Home for most of his adolescent years. And during that time, he also went to Alpha Boys School. He did a couple of years there.
There was another one that he went to.
Yeah, there were about three of them. But in the Alpha Boys School, he said that Alpha, Sister Ignatius used to play the piano, and that's, you know, and so him said what happened, but she was really just a piano, and he would basically DJ while she played the piano. So that's kind of opened him up. He had always had an interest in music, you know, people like Dennis Brown, Yaawd, Big Youth, you know, Jimmy Cliff, some of his favorites, and he said so he developed this penchant for rhyming while he was at Alpha.
That's why I'm saying legses and shoes.
Legses, shoes, etc. and so on. And so he started out with a little sound system called Soul to Soul sound, which was up in I think it was in Barbican, and over time he moved into jungle, Kingston 11, Kingston 12, and he started to connect with some of the other sets. Gemini, Aces International. Spent a lot of time with Aces International, okay? And Jack, well, he ultimately went to Jack Ruby because himself never had no abiding city, because nobody now really want him. If him go a dance and them give him the mic at the end of the dance when people are leave. Yeah. So one night him at a Gemini dance. That time Gemini had them thing on Half a Tree Road. I think it's Cargill Avenue or whatever it is, off Half a Tree.
Yeah, between Beechwood Avenue, near Beechwood Avenue.
Right. And him say, while him at the dance now, Eka Mouse. Him say Eka Mouse coming at the dance, and Eka Mouse, I think it was Lone Ranger have the microphone, and Eka Mouse say, give me the microphone, boy, and get a youth here. And of course, them a back off a Yellowman, because Yellowman a dundus, and them want to dundus whatever them have catch them. And him say, you know, him say, what happens is that Eka Mouse not a DJ, Eka Mouse a singer, but Eka Mouse is a man from jungle. And him say, Eka Mouse a par with people like Starkey. Now, if you know Starkey, just for the listeners thing, in the 1970s up to that early 1980s, 82 period, them, you know, them man, General Starkey is his name, right? That was his moniker. And they were part of the big bad man set. So him say once he come out, take with the microphone. Of course, Starkey hear him start to DJ, because he come out, give him the microphone, and him start to run some DJ. And you know, the man them out, Ray and Starkey get up and tell all I DJ them, so go on the Yaawd. I don't know if we don't want to stay, you can listen, but that man we want to hear, cause fresh voice. And the man have lyrics for kill. I mean like what I hear. So here what? No more DJ now DJ tonight. And that man there we are DJ. And him said that is what basically boss him. And you know, from there on in the sound system them now, every time him name come up, them want to hear him. Now we are talking about the 1970s, late, you know, the
79, early
78, 79, him no reach us yet. And him said what happened is he eventually entered the Tasty Talent Contest. Now there's an argument out there that he won the Tasty Talent Contest. He never won. He finished behind Nadine Sutherland, 1979. But he was very popular. You know, it was kind of an aberration, because the audience and Tasty Talent Contest right on Half-a-Tree Road, just, you know, the heart of Crossroads.
In those days,
them block off the road.
Half-a-Tree Road is blocked. You have to go down Retirement Road and come back
convoluted
yes.
to continue your journey by Half-a-Tree. And he said that particular concert, the place dark with people, and he didn't win. I think he finished second, and I think Paul Blake finished third. Paul Blake from Bloodfire Posse, but Nadine Sutherland won. But that opened the people's eyes to him, and so he started to do the concert setup. And people will tell you, if you hear about the Yellowman in that time, when you go to a Yellowman concert, he tear down the place, and quietly he started to build his reputation. So once people see him name on a bill, you start to look beyond.
Outlandish lyrics,
yes.
slackness,
a little slackness.
Using the microphone,
as an extension of his, you know, whatever. And then him say, how you get the name Yellowman? Because people figure it was him doing this thing. Him said, no, him used to always only wear a yellow tracksuit.
Well, him used to buy a lot of pineapple soda.
Yeah, but him is a tracksuit thing. Give him that, and plus him
himself.
Yeah, so he basically identified himself with what would have been his deficiency, and he used that. You know, and here's a youth.
That was a hallmark of his performances too, Richie. Was his self-deprecating remarks.
Yes, most of his lyrics, he basically poked fun at himself and his condition. But he knew how to roll that across to the audience, and the audience received it. And ultimately people started to look beyond the visual representation that he was out. And
the song that he performed at a Tasty Talent Contest was the song I started out with, Me Kill Barney. But we're going to play one of his more controversial songs. No, it's not a slack song, but it's one of his more controversial songs. Mr. Chin, which was actually banned from the airwaves in Jamaica because it was said that the part where he said, lang, chang lang, lang pa, Yellowman darling, why? Them says actual Chinese curse words. And so the song was banned on the airwaves. But thank God for today's internet, and it's an adult show, even though we have children listening. Mr. Chin, which he followed up with a counter. Yellowman is now known for being a counteraction artist. So he counteracted himself with Mr. Chin, with Mr. Wang. So I'm going to play
issues behind this. But this song, Over Me, them are mad over me. Again, had to come in here. I remember at the time I was working at Grace Kennedy, and Grace used this tune to put out an ad, Grace Tomato Ketchup. I like a hot, hot, hot dog. With what? With Grace Jamaican ketchup. Yeah, I like a big hamburger. And so that also helped. Again, you know, I have to give credit to a man named Ivan O'Yee. Ivan at the time was the sales and marketing manager at Grace Kennedy, and eventually took over the marketing department. I reported to him at the time, and you know, but you have to give credit where it is, because Grace never had to bring Yellowman into that kind of mainstream, but that also helped to cement. And I'll give you a little bit more when we come back from the break as to the issues that related to that particular advertising. Let's go to break, try to make some money. The system was against a character like Yellowman. From his birth, this guy was, if he was left to just the design of the system, the whole social,
we would never have had a Yellowman.
Well, they would have gotten him out of the system even before, you know, kill him in childbirth.
Well, you know, my grandmother always said, man born for hen can't drown, so.
Well, you know, well, listen, my assessment of Yellowman in terms of his, you know, just his whole personal fortitude is that he's the best demonstration of the strength of the human character, and it is what he has demonstrated over his entire career is that, you know, to use your term, we're not dead, no dash way. Yellowman is responsible for smaditizing the character, the Dundus character in Jamaica, because otherwise, Dundus was somewhere, you say, Dundus man, you go across the street, you know, walk, you know, the same thing with him. But, you know, such is
life. Man,
yeah, man, and you know what is funny?
Advocating domestic violence.
Yes, and you know, if you go back to the period, the 1980s, there when
even before that,
yeah, 1970s, because Eptones did it. But
I have the hand. I hold the handle.
I have the handle. You have the blade, and whatever you need first aid.
Yeah.
And so you hear the carryover into this particular song. We certainly not advocate
but there's
that kind
also
of behavior.
a positive side to this song too, because it says, "Listen, I am going to mind my yellow child." So
yeah, but it's still no support the you know, the verbiage that pretend towards any kind of abuse of women. Thank God we moved away from that, you know. But having said all of that, you want us to appreciate that a lot of these entertainers, and Yellowman is no different, they are singing or making music out of the things that they are seeing within their own domestic environment. And unfortunately, the 1970s, the 1980s, this was almost passé within certain communities where, you know, people just men abuse them women.
We've also
know?
made joke of the fact that sometimes you hear a woman say, "Boy, my husband not beat me when he love me anymore."
If him not beat me, not love me. But you know, and we essentially saying, you know, we're happy that the music has distanced itself away from that. Now, just want to step back a little bit. Now, after Yellowman essentially was one of the most prolific
entertainers,
hit makers. You know, entertainer, yes, because you go to a Yellowman show, you're getting a complete show.
First of all, again, Richie, sorry if I interrupt you. The fashion brethren, the man always, as back in the 80s, the man always trash.
Yeah, and if you have just for people who don't know, trash means that well put together.
Right? Yes, and as a matter of fact, he needs to have a song called Walking Jewelry Store.
Yes, and we're gonna touch that too. But Yellowman in that early 1980 up to 1982-83 was essentially one of the most prolific hit makers of the period. Yellowman had in 1982-83 he had some 43 songs in the charts at the time, right? And
talk about airwave dominance.
He dominated the dancehall airwaves. In fact, he helped to define what became known as the modern dancehall, you know, coming out of that period. Later on, the thing would move a little bit, but there's a man behind the creation of this dominance was Henry Junjo Laws. And, you know, Yellowman talked about him, said, in the early days, because he was a set DJ, you know, what he was doing when he started recording, it was almost unknown that a sound system DJ is recording the material that he's DJing on the sound system and turning it out into record. And so what happened is he used to do some work with John Jala's sound system coming out at the same Kingston area there. But he wasn't getting the kind of money that, you know, him would be happy with. And so he went to Ocho Rios, and Jack Ruby picked him up and he started to record for Jack. Well, he did some work on Jack Ruby's sound, and the popularity that he was generating now, you know, man in the town realized, well, we can't afford for this man, you know, them dry me from it. And so they basically, Aces International basically timed down. And him say, he would go, when Ace is not playing, he would then go DJ upon another sound system. And then ultimately, what's his name? Decided, John Jolas decided that, hey, after he did the first song, Soldier Take Over, with
Tonka.
Yeah, Tonka, the Tonka guy, he said he decided to start to record him on a regular basis, and he never missed a beat. Yes, Paddy.
One of the things that Yellowman talked about was the fact that it was Jack Ruby who actually started treating him like a star.
Oh yes, send him Benz film.
Send his Benz for him and pick him up and everything. And then Aces started doing the same thing.
If say Aces realized that he will lose him, because he says when Jack Ruby have a show or have a dance, him send the Benz. You know, you imagine, you know,
in the 70s, you know.
And he used to live. Hold on, remember, he was living at Eventide home, you know. Right around a Sliping Road there. So him say when the Benz come around the fame, and you know, Jamaica people, especially Jonestown people, see this Mercedes Benz and say, wait, but don't say I go up in a life, man. And yeah, and so ultimately he decided that, hey, he can't afford for him to get away, and so he started now to get somewhere. And, you know, he stuck to his guns. He said, listen, people ask him, why you do this whole heap of slackness thing? He said, listen, I'm a man who loves the ladies. And people look at him and he brow knit up and say, you love the ladies. Oh,
the ladies love him.
And he said, but the woman, them love him. And he said, him not singing these songs as a denigration of women. Right? Because he play off the vibe he's getting in the dance hall. And him say, when a woman come at the dance, so after him make him name, is Yellowman them come to listen to. And so this is how he talked to the ladies.
And one of the things he pointed out that when he was at Alpha Boys, he used to have Alpha Girls, and him said when the man them used to treat him with scant regard, it was the women who actually used to be around him. So.
Yeah, at school, yes, the ladies, the girls would give him the time of day, but the guys wasn't with it. But listen, Yellowman did a pile of music in that time, and we wanna treat the listeners to the talent, a demonstration of, you know, the kind of fortitude that he developed and how he carried that over to make himself into the artist that he became. Run some tune, the guy.
One of the songs that I like, 1982, Natty Sat Up on the Rock. Yes. That was a big song. You know, when I look at it and I was thinking about the song, I was like, I don't remember that song. But when I played it, I was like, wow, how could I forget? So here is Natty Sat Up.
Man, just walking in the street there. The erstwhile Dr. Dennis O. Howard. Dennis, how you do? Welcome again to Sunday School.
I'm alright, man. How you doing?
Why you know say we take lessons from Yellowman, how to keep a dance, you know, and this is right up your street, you know. Welcome, Paddy. What's up?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Yellowman Dennis.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Yellowman.
Well, the first king of dancehall music. I'm probably the only king, and he was the catalyst that really took the new what you call it genre, because when Yellowman was doing it, we didn't even solidify the name. A lot of people don't realize that it took about 10 years for us to label the music dancehall, you know?
Right.
And so Yellowman was the catalyst that kind of really solidified dancehall as a music and as a culture, because before Yellowman, most of the dancehall stars were sing-jays and singers. So people like Tristan Palmer, people like
Sugar Minott,
Osborne, Sugar Minott, Barrington Levy, Tony Tuff, all of these, oh, and Sammy Dread, all of these were the persons who were really, you know, pushing the music. DJs weren't at the top of the list. DJs were limited to the dancehall space. So like a Rankin Joe, Lone Ranger, and all of these guys were in the dance halls and they would come on. But in terms of music, recordings, it was the dances are changing. The what name there, Mr. DC.
Right.
Some of the songs.
Urban hustling, urban hustling, that kind of thing.
All of these songs.
Right.
And then now, just before Yellowman came on the scene, you had two seminal songs in the dance hall, which was Nice Up the Dance.
Michigan and Smiley.
Yeah. Nice Up the Dance and Rubber Dub Styley.
Right.
Now, by about 82, so those were like in the late 70s, 79 coming up. So by about 81, 82, Yellowman came on the scene. First with a song named Over Me, Them a Mad Over Me, which he did for Mr. Campbell, Spider, I think the label was Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember Campbell's first name. And then he booked up on John Laws, who was working with the likes of Barrington Levy before.
Right.
And the rest is history. So the first song was I think it was Mr. Chin. Soldier Take Over or something like that.
Right.
You see, what is important, you know, is not which song was recorded first, you know, is which one was had an impact on the population.
Right.
And the first song to really have a impact on the population was Mr. Chin, followed by Over Me. Over Me was recorded before Mr. Chin. But when Mr. Chin came out, it was an instant hit.
But I remember that I was at Grace Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
And it was. It literally blew the place apart. You don't go nowhere.
I was at GBC at the time.
Yes.
I was at GBC.
But,
and Barry G was the person
who bossed it.
Yeah, broke that tune. So, you know, like with everything, once one song boss, everybody start put out them song. So the other songs came out. So again, most times when people say this is the first song that I did, or this was a hit song, most of these songs never was no hit song during that period. The majority, I've said this all the time, the majority of classic reggae musics were never hits immediately. It is over time that they became big songs. But Yellowman was different because once him come out with Mr. Chin, it was I'm Getting Married, Zungu Zungu Zay, Over Me, all kind of different songs. I would know the track record of Yellowman as it relates to that.
Right.
But what was different about Yellowman was because he was at that time what we used to call a dundus. And so that attracted people to want to know him more. But also his style was kind of different. It was very relatable. And his flow was really good. He had a clear voice. And so all of these elements came together. And Yellowman was the biggest sponge. Worse than some other DJs that we know who love to take away lyrics. Because a lot of the lyrics that Yellowman made popular weren't his original composition.
There you go. I made that point earlier.
Old Man Connection was Nicodemus.
Yeah, I'm taking it from all kind of different people. But that was nothing was wrong with that because that was how the music was constructed at the time. We did what we call social authorship.
Right.
Everybody know the lyrics and everybody use the lyrics. Everybody used to use Free Nelson Mandela. That was originally by Brigadier Jerry, but it was made popular by many other artists on stage like Coco T, and everybody used to use it. So it became community property. Right. But because of the Yellowman style, massive, and dancehall became extremely popular during that period. And because John Laws, who I consider the co-founding father of dancehall music, came with a flash and a panache. You know, the big BMWs. Can you imagine BMWs in 1980?
81, 82.
Yeah. And regular artists now start driving BMW. The Benz that the BMW that Yellowman started his career with was actually owned by John
Junjo, right. That yellow, it was blue and he painted yellow after that.
Blue in color. And then when John Laws gave him the Benz as an advance for the album that they were doing, Yellowman repainted yellow.
Which album was that? The same Mr. Yellowman?
The first, I can't remember the name of the album now, but the first Yellowman album from John Laws. I'm not sure if it's named Zungo Zung. No, that was probably the second.
That was the second one.
Maybe the name I'm Getting Married or something, because the big song, the big song was I'm Getting Married, you know. And Yellowman just took, listen, back in them days, you know, when you pay an artist like a Yellowman for a dance, you know, it's about $50, you know. Not even $100 you get, you know. That was where the dancehall music was at the time. You know, and popular music culture was at the time. You see, a lot of people now love to glamorize and, in hindsight, talk all kind of things about dancehall culture. And it wasn't so, because even during this period, the established people in the music was saying what Yellowman was doing was foolishness. And by the time the name solidified after 10 years, because dancehall music, the first phase of dancehall music, which we call analog dancehall, which was just using old-time reggae and rocksteady rhythms, the reuse of those and add the dub aesthetic to it. Those were the analog dancehall period. So the people like Tristan Palmer, Liquid John, Yellowman, Barrington Levy, Johnny Osborne, all of these people was in that period. They established reggae artists, the ilk of the Burning Spears, the Gladiators, the Mighty Diamonds. They were on another level. These artists were now going internationally, signed to Virgin, signed to Ireland. And so this homegrown music was coming out. And the reggae establishment said foolishness. And dancehall, no music can't name dancehall, because dancehall is a space where you go.
And go dance when the sound system string up, right?
You know? So the sensation of Yellowman kind of legitimized the music more than anybody else. And so Yellowman must be credited as, in a sense, one of the creator of this culture that we now enjoy. And then, of course, too, Yellowman, although he was an albino, he was a slick dresser. Always fashionable.
He talked about that, watching an interview with him, and he said to the extent that Nike created a track shoes for him, you know, with based on his specifications, yellow and whatever, and all of the trimmings and the trappings. Because when him come on a stage or him go to a dance to perform, him say he is bringing the persona of Yellowman. You remember him own him the malady, you know, whatever he was born with, he turned it to an advantage. And he said his favorite color was yellow, right? He figured that what he wanted to do is the same things that people used to use to mock him. He turned it to his advantage and helped to create the phenomena, as you just pointed out, that became dancehall.
Another thing that Yellowman did at that period was to kind of popularize what he calls sex music. Him don't call it slapness.
Certainly right.
Him call it sex music. And the way he delivered the music, and I guess because of his albino status, it was more palatable for a Yellowman to bring that sort of raucous, risky, slack vibe to the table. And I remember that famous
Hi there. If you enjoy that clip, go on over to our website at yawdmedia.com, where you can watch the entire broadcast at your leisure. And while you're there, why don't you check out our other reggae music features? And before you leave, pick up some of our Jamaican reggae merchandise, and hey, don't forget to tell your friends.
My name is Garth, otherwise known as Big G.
My name is Richie Blackford.